Hey, good lifers. It is Naimah. I am riding in the car. A couple of things. I wanted to first say thank you. Thank you to the so many of you who are asking about why I haven't posted lately. And one of the reasons is because I've been so busy. And I don't want to make that an excuse, and so I'm going to really work hard on trying to post more often. And oftentimes you might see me posting in the car, because this is a great place for me to actually, get a video going on and without any distractions, like working and, being at the computer and being on conference calls and stuff like that. So, hopefully you'll be able to appreciate that. But again, I appreciate each of you for asking where I've been, what I'm doing, and telling me that I'm your clinical psychologist and that you need me to be on the air, just to help progress your life along. So I so much appreciate that. And, some of you may not know, but I have a degree in sociology, so I kind of take pride in being able to assess things and being able to kind of help people along the way, because I certainly know I've had to do that with my own life and my own situation. And some of it is also a gift that God has kind of given me, a gift to be able to see things a specific way and share it with others. And some of you also know that I dream that way as well. I could dream something never having spoken to you and can tell you exactly what's happening. But those are all mercies and graces from a higher source and a higher creator. So that's one thing to be thankful for. I wanted to give a shout out to some of my beautiful ladies in my life that their birthdays are coming up. So shout out to you all. You all know who you are. And then thank you for the inspiration for my team of ladies who were at the race this weekend. We had a great time. Marathoners and half marathoners, and I made a commitment to run a half marathon with some of them. So I'm going to be starting training for that this week, and so I'm excited about that. So thank you. Congratulations, and thank you for the encouragement as well. And also want to give a shout out to Khadijah Diggs, who also gave me some encouragement a couple of months ago, telling me I need to go out there and go for the gusto. So thank you so much for that. So what I want to talk to you about today, I want to talk to you about negotiables and non-negotiables. I had a conversation with a couple of my girlfriends before about this particular topic. Negotiables and non-negotiables, and exactly what does that mean, and what are those things. So we and I really want to talk to a lot of the women. I know men might be watching these videos, but I want to talk to the women about what is a negotiable, what is a non-negotiable, and why do we let ourselves kind of give in to the non-negotiable. I had a really deep, insightful conversation with an older person today about negotiables and non-negotiables, and it was a deep conversation, because what is required when you're thinking about negotiables and non-negotiables are for you as an individual to, number one, know what those are. You have to identify what those are, and to understand why you're accepting or not accepting specific things in your relationships, and that means friendships, family, friends, whatever, spouses, all kind of relationships. And what happens when you are put in a situation where that peaks its head, where the non-negotiable peaks its head, and what do you do from there? So I kind of want to give a couple of examples. A non-negotiable in a relationship, we'll say, in a male-female relationship, is when, of course, a woman has already, set her terms and conditions, and she's really not willing to kind of back down on that. And she'll say things like, if he does A, B, C, D, E, F, G, whatever that is, then, I'm out. Or if he does this, then I'm going to do this, and blah, blah, blah. And we do this all the time, women. And then some people, they do really well with non-negotiables, and they don't back down. And then there are some women who back down every single time. Their non-negotiables are really not non-negotiables. They just want to say that they are because it sounds good, but they really are not emotionally equipped to really follow through with the non-negotiable. And then there are the women that are in between the two of those, where every now and then, like, hey, sometimes a non-negotiable gets broken, and we have to ask ourselves, are we willing to accept it? But not only are we willing to accept it, we have to be able to dig deep, and I mean deep, like deep inside your emotional pool, inside your emotional intelligence, and ask yourself the hard questions. What is this coming from? Is this a situation or a circumstance or experience that I can live past, live with, and deal with? And can me and this specific individual move past it? And so what you'll see is that one particular situation, like I said, I'm going to use this as an example, is women saying, if my man cheats on me, I'm out of here, I'm gone. And what happens is, in relationships, you develop emotions and you develop feelings, and how you felt about that person when you made that statement may not be the same, and you probably love them more than you thought you would, or you are willing to give them a little bit of leeway or whatever. I don't know what the case may be, but that non-negotiable looks a little different for you. And what ends up happening is you start getting these feelings deep inside, not only your heart, your mind, your soul, and you start to feel a little disrupted. And you sometimes question whether or not you have grown as a person, as an individual. You start to question, am I going back to my old self? I used to do this. I don't want to do this anymore. What's going on with me? And so a conversation that I was having today with someone earlier was that just because those feelings arise doesn't mean that you're back in the same place, because you've grown. You're totally different. And it might begin to show up for you in that manner because that's what it has some strong assimilations. But then you have to ask yourself, okay, what is this negotiable or non-negotiable about? What is this? What is it? Why is it? And, there are two kinds of emotions that happen when people are dealing with things. One is the first emotion, which is generally tons and tons and tons of things that are going on in people's heads, hearts, and minds. And then the second one is usually anger. So if you are feeling angry about a situation, remember, that's the second emotion. Anger is always the second response to a first response. And oftentimes we don't deal with the first response. And the first response could be disappointment. The first response can be conflict. The first response can be unhappiness, dissatisfaction, you're frightened, you're fearful of something. And then as we sit in it a little bit, and some of us sit in it a lot of it, then anger comes. And the anger is the second response, because we may not have dealt with the first response. And so dealing with the first response is really, really important. So thinking about that non-negotiable. So number one, dealing with the first response of how you are approaching this non-negotiable type feeling, right? And the second thing is giving yourself credit. Number one, stop banging yourself over the head saying that you haven't grown as a person because you're going back to this same thing, unless you actually know that you haven't grown as a person. But if it was 10, 15, 20 years ago, and maybe, the situation is totally different, but you see yourself kind of going down the same pathway, but you acknowledge it, that means that you've grown. That doesn't mean that you're in that same space. And that, you see yourself as weak, or you see yourself as not being able to move on. No, it's okay to sit in an emotion and try to work through it. That's what emotional intelligence is. It's not when you feel something and then you act upon it. It's when you sit on an emotion, try to work through the emotion, and not working through the emotion emotionally, but working through the emotion through rational thinking, logic, situational, looking at this specific situation. And so those are 2 tips that I've just given you. The first one, of course, is understanding the first emotion that you're feeling with a non-negotiable, and the second is working through that emotion. And it's not going to be 15 minutes, 20 minutes. Everybody has a different time frame. So, don't think of it as like, oh, I have to get this done in so many days. And, oftentimes you hear Muslims say, oh, I got 3 days to deal with this. It's not literally 3 days. It's just meaning that you should probably work on getting it done sooner than later. But everybody's not able to do that. So take the time that you need, not time to stall through that emotion, but the time that you need to work through that emotion. And then once you've worked through that emotion, then act upon it. So going back to the non-negotiable, okay, so if a man cheats on you, whatever he does, and then you're like, man, I'm going to boot him out, kick him out, or you feel like, man, I think I can work through this situation. It's okay to feel that way. Other women don't have to make you feel like, no, girl, you need to leave. Whatever you feel is coming up in your soul, in your spirit for a specific reason. This is also with your children. It's kind of like your children do something and other people are like, girl, I would have put that child out, or I don't know, whatever people say, all kind of things people say. But you have to work through that situation with your child. Also with your friends, when your friends say or do things that you might not agree with, or they've done something to hurt you, work through that non-negotiable. If she does such and such, our friendship is over. You got to see it where it's at. See where you're meeting that non-negotiable at, and making sure that you can work through those emotions and not beating yourself up for feeling a specific way, but working through that emotion. So let's go through the tips again. Number 1, when you're dealing with a non-negotiable, what do? Recognize the emotion. Number 2, work through the emotion. And number 3, have a plan. Very, 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 very important. Very, very important. For not just women, for everybody. Everybody needs to learn how to do this. And this is something else that we need to teach our children how to do it. Like, you tell your children, oh, don't let anyone beat you up. But then they turn around and see you abusing them. It's like, really? That's not kind of teaching them how to work through an emotion, because, they're learning a specific behavior by what you're teaching or doing to them as well. So, being able to see things and assess things deep, and then moving forward from there. And then, when you get specific responses from people, don't attribute it to, oh, that person always having attitude or something like that. It may also be attributed to inflection, like that person is inflecting something because of something that has occurred over and over and over in the relationship, right? So they already know a response that you're going to give them, or they feel like they know the response they're going to give them because of the responses that you've given them in the past. And so what ends up happening is that response becomes a triggered response. It becomes a natural response, and it may not be positive, but that becomes ingrained in their heart and their mind or whatever, and that's how they respond to you, and vice versa. And just being careful and cognizant of that as well. And making sure that you're working through all these things. It's so much work just to be in relationships, period. And then you have, of course, the world tugging at you with all these ideas and thoughts and stuff like that that are not natural, that, really don't take you from point A to point B. But being able to identify, making sure that your thoughts are natural, as pure and intended as possible, and moving from there. And I think that if we begin to, as people start doing that more, I think that we'll have not only closer relationships, but more meaningful relationships, and our emotional intelligence will be on a much higher plane, and we'll be able to move past and push past specific things. So that's really it. I just want to share that really quick. I know that wasn't really quick, but I just want to share that with you all today. Non-negotiables and what happens when you're faced with dealing with a non-negotiable. Hopefully this will benefit someone, even if it's one person. And I just wanted to give a shout out to Jamila Jihad. Coming up this Saturday, we have Judy Jam's Comedy Fest. And 2 people that will be performing is Asia Ali, as well as Queen Uhuru, I believe. Her name is also known as Haja Naimah Abdullah. So she'll be performing there as well. It's a woman's fest, all women only. Would love to see some sisters out there coming out, hanging out with us. Come and get some sisterly love. And also making sure that you get your tickets for the Sealed Nectar Fashion Show. You can go to the website, www.sealednectarfashionshow.com. We'd love to see you in the place. We have a specific capacity, and once we reach that capacity, we won't be able to extend it out. And also remembering that when you purchase an adult ticket, you have free entrance into the teen fashion show on Friday night. So encouraging as many teens as possible. And when we say teen, we mean young women, as young as 5 all the way through 18, how to dress modest and why we dress modest, and kind of, what happens when you're in a society and those things aren't taking place, okay? And then, let's see, also on Saturday, we have yoga and cardio groove that Saturday morning to get ready to get exercise and relaxation before the fashion show, which is later that day. And then on Sunday, we have a brunch / Talim with about 4 workshops on what is modesty, and talking about modesty in the areas of modesty with relationships, friendships, workplace, and modesty with your spouses, because there's some modesty there as well, and modesty on social media, because some people are forgetting that there should be modesty on social media. But yeah, so those are some things dealing with the fashion show as well. Always remember to write comments down in the comment section if you like. Feel free to reach out to me anytime if you have any questions or you'd like for me to talk about a specific topic. I am open, and I hope to see you all again soon. Peace, blessings, and I'm out.